No, they
things
don't.
personally. And also,
No.
in real life, sharks don't mother their young. It's just
No.
not something they do.
No.
They are born fully formed, small killers. Small, just
They
predators.
don't have some sort of ESP connection that she would know that it had died, and it had died at the hands of the humans.
Now, they did kind of set up in 2 that, well, Brody hypothesized that when they killed the first shark, it sent out some kind of a sonar beacon to attract another, like, to attract, which I want them to follow up on. But, so maybe that happens here as the young one is dying. It's like, Mama, they killed me! And she goes in a frenzy. Oh, I love it. Okay, anything else about Jaws 3 that you wanted to bring up before
I think we've pretty much covered it all.
Fantastic. Okay, so like I said, I've been all these Deep Sea adjacent films. I've been finding any comparisons between this film and Deep Sea, and for this one, there's quite a few. So settle in and get comfy. So we have an early facility exposition sequence with somebody explaining the full layout of where they are, which there's even a little model. I love the little model. I'm like Alan Rickman in Die Hard. I love the little models.
Yeah.
Early on, there's a guy. It's not Dennis Quaid. It's one of the guys on his team who is dressed like Thomas Jane in Deep Sea with the black sleeveless shirt. There's a guy who's trying to fix fences. Scoggins is in this film. The whole film is about animals in prison, which is what Deep Sea is all about. Having watched Blackfish, I can't look at this and think these animals are just being captive, should be released.
Yeah.
When Kate meets with Fitzroyce, they talk about having met in Helsinki. I was like, oh, Rennie Harland from Finland. That's a future callback. It's a call forward. The lead female scientist, who is Kate, doesn't want to kill the shark. She wants to keep it captive, exactly like Dr. Susan McAllister wants to do. People checking monitors whilst others are hunting sharks. I make this list as I'm watching the film. Some of them are really tenuous. That one I'm not even going to count. When they shoot the shark from the land, from the raft thing, they use the exact same spear gun with the rope attached to it. I swear it's the identical thing that they used to shoot the sharks in Deep Sea. That kind of the spear gun with like the horizontal crossbar.
Yes, yeah.
There's a whole scene taken out of this that's in Deep Sea is when they sedate the younger shark. You've got Kate and Mike either side of it. Shark wakes up. They thought it was sedated, but it wakes up. The whole thing is taken. There's a mother and a younger shark, a captive. The sharks in Deep Sea are parents and child. So again, it's the same film. When Deep Sea in a water park is all it is. There's when the shark breaks through the window at the end. Is very similar to when the shark throws Jim at the window.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. Window breaks, room floods with water. I mentioned the people being trapped in the tunnel, which floods with water. There's doors closing. There's water spurting through the doors. That whole sequence is very Deep Sea. Mentioned the welding of Deep Sea 2. Actually, the welding in Deep Sea 2 is sleeveless welding, which I have to point out. Which do not try sleeveless welding. It's not going to work. But it's only in that film. Shouldn't be done. Part of the climax involves somebody using themselves as live bait and dying because they tied something to a ladder and the ladder failed. Susan used herself as live bait. The ladder failed. She died. It's the same. It's the same thing. This is the most Deep Sea like film we've had so far, I think.
Yeah.
They herd the shark at one point, and the sharks are herding them. The shark escapes from prison. The film ends with the shark exploding.
Yes.
Which, although to be fair, that was a direct callback from Deep Sea. I think infamously the 3 sharks in Deep Sea are killed in the same order, or the same method as the 3 sharks in the first Jaws film. So it's exploded.
Yes.
Exploded. So it counts, but it's intentional. At one point they ride dolphins, and Carter rides a shark at one point. There's a shot with a camera inside the shark's mouth. A couple of times, actually, which is in Deep Sea 2. There's a shot from inside the shark's mouth, which is great. When we first meet Louis Gossett Jr.'s character, they mentioned briefly that he has a sordid past. And so does Carter. So does Russell, kind of. And at one point, a shark swims backwards. There we go. That's my list of how
Yes.
this Deep Blue Sea adjacent. Nice long list. And one other thing I like to do is how deep and how blue is this film? So, if I were to tell you, Doug, that Deep Blue Sea is roughly 14.5 meters deep and 31% blue, do you think on average Jaws 3D is deeper and or bluer than Deep Blue Sea?
I don't think it would be deeper. It may be bluer.
You are completely correct.
Yeah.
It is about 44.6% blue. I do this by, I basically watch the film, break it into chunks, work out how blue each chunk is. It's a perfectly normal thing to do. And it's, they mentioned when they're doing the map model area that the tunnels and everything are about 40 feet deep, which is 12.2 meters. So everything, a lot of things take place down at that level, but a lot of things take place on the surface as well. So it only ends up being about 3 meters deep, which is about 10 feet deep.
Right.
So
Right.
not very deep, bluer than Deep Blue Sea, but hasn't made big inroads on my graph that I'm making. This science that we're doing here. Well, saying that it is, I think it's our third, it's our fourth bluest film so far.
Right.
So,
right.
This is what everyone cares about. Only The Shallows, Aquaman, and Jaws 2 have been bluer than this. So, but depth-wise, not at all. Not very deep. So. Good. Well, Doug, thank you for joining me for the Jaws 3. Where can the listeners find more of your work?
You can find my film reviews at thejamreport.com, and then if anyone is interested in award season, which has now started again, even though the last one feels like it just ended, I am the awards editor of the UK website Filmotomy, and so I'll be covering all the fun of awards season for the next couple of months.
Do they know you're not in the UK?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Which makes it difficult because Australia is notorious for getting awardsy kind of movies very late. You know, like they tend to hold them back here until closer to the Oscars. So we don't get like something like Belfast, which is going to be a big Oscar contender, until like February. So it does make things a little bit difficult, but the world of screeners comes in very handy, so I can actually watch things here even though they're not out yet. So
good.
It's fun.
Well, listeners, you can follow the podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Deep Blue Sea Pod, and all of those, or email us deepblueseapod@gmail.com if you have any suggestions for future Deep Blue Sea adjacent films we should be covering. Let us know there. If you have any notes, if you want to contest my deep and blue figures, then by all means go through the film, work out how deep and blue it is. I dare you. It's so much fun. And you can read more of my writing over at lifeversusfilm.com, Life vs Film. Listen to me once a month over on the Lambcast, the official podcast of the Large Association of Movie Blogs. Find it at largeassmovieblogs.com, where I host the movie trivia podcast series, Lampardy, which is based on Jeopardy, and it's a lot of fun. Doug was on earlier this year. I did a surprise Disney trivia episode with him and two others, which was a lot of fun, I think. It was a very tense game, very close game.
Yeah.
Because you're a big Disney fan. And you can find regular co-host Mark, find more of his stuff at Movies, Films and Flicks, FLIX.com. And come back next week for Jaws the Revenge. I'm going to close out this. I can't wait. There we go. Everyone's like, oh, Jaws 4, eh? So it's going to... Well, we'll see what happens.
You're well prepared. You're not expecting anything other than terribleness. So
is it all in focus at least? Because Jaws 3D is often not in focus.
Yes. And it's coherent, coherently narrative. So that's
good.
Fine.
Okay, so we'll see if it's better than this one next week. But as for today's show, thank you again to Doug Jamison for joining me.
Thank you, and remember, the third dimension is terror.
I've been Jake Blewett, and I'll deep blue see you next week.